There are 3 H's we look for in women when we're trying to find our spouse: humor, holiness, and are they cute? And today we're going to zoom in on humor specifically, but more on why do we as men use humor to get through life, right? When does it help us connect? When does it actually keep us from dealing with what's really going on? This is an all-in podcast, and welcome to the studio. You guys have a joke that you keep in your back pocket for when something gets a little awkward or a little weird?
Probably just whenever someone says something, I say that was my nickname in high school.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not, I want to say it's good. It's good if people haven't heard it before. And it's good depending on what they said before I make that joke.
The first time someone hears that joke,
they love it.
It hits so
hits hard. Yeah. But like by the 4th time, or like if one of y'all made that joke on the podcast, I would be like, no.
What are you, 11?
Just freaking mute yourself.
But then I do feel like there comes a time, maybe by the 20th time, where it starts to become funny again. You know?
Well, then a joke kind of has 3 forms: funny, cringe, and then it's so cringe that it becomes funny again.
Yeah.
That would be one of those.
It becomes a bit.
It becomes a bit.
Point. Yeah.
The other like bit joke that is kind of a back pocket is, you know, if someone says, I want to hire her. It's like, hire her, I hardly know her. You know that joke? Like that went through the
that
I just feel like that was
that's a very niche example. Like if we're in a hiring conversation.
I want to hire her. Hire her? I hardly know her.
It's like the one time it actually makes sense and it's not funny.
Or like water.
I
hardly know her. I think it came from liquor, right? I think that's the original. That was the OG joke.
Probably.
Yeah.
And then it's on The Office.
The Office
it's an Office
kind of,
joke.
Oh, is that
I think
what it
it
popularized it? Yeah.
What did Scott say it?
Yeah, Michael Scott.
What was the context? Scott.
They're on a last name basis, so they're really close.
Mr. Scott.
Oh, me and Scotty go way back.
Yeah. Clay, what about you?
I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of what I'm doing right now, which is just the the awkward laugh kind of smile.
You have a
back
great
at you.
awkward laugh.
Thank you.
Your laugh isn't awkward, but when you get uncomfortable, me and Jose know because you're just gonna
like I did right now. Yeah.
It's nice.
I think I've always been really quick to laugh. I'm quick to smile, quick to laugh.
Yeah.
So,
quick to love. Quick to
love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Break down barriers.
Quick to break down barriers.
Me. Yeah. Just
a
friendly guy.
Barrier breaker. Miracle worker.
Worker.
Thank you, Jose.
That was wonderful.
Why would you do that, John Michael? Why do you think humor helps men bond so quickly? You know, 'cause I feel like growing up, all of high school, even college, and even now, right? But especially high school, when I feel like you notice these things more. Like guy friendships are just a lot of laughing. Like you become friends with the guy that's sitting next to you in class because you just laughed at the same thing. But girls, it's like they have to get to know each other and all these things before they become friends. You know what I mean? I feel like that was always a thing in high school, college. What do you think that is? Why is humor so bonding for men?
There's something about, I just think of like all of my male friendships kind of started with this little mutual roasting, kind of giving it to each other a little bit, kind of see how much they can take, how much they can't. Like I have friends where it's like, that is how the friendship began. You know, we have a mutual friend, Vince, the producer of this podcast, and all of us love to give him a hard time and he gives us right back. And it's like, that's where our friendship started with him. So I think it's a trust thing. It's a comfortability thing. If I feel comfortable enough to give you a hard time and you give me one back, then I actually trust you and I like you. I can't remember many friendships starting off with like, let's just talk super deep. but it's like let's build a trust through banter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What I was going to say was that, women tend to bond more over the conversations, whereas men bond more over a shared experience. And there's something, to me, laughing together is some form of a shared experience. There's like an emotion that's coming out of you, whether it's like I'm sharing a story and we're both laughing about it. There's like, it feels like we're sharing something together. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. I feel a lot more safe to share about my life with someone if we've already spent some time laughing.
Right.
Because now I know your sense of humor, so I feel like I know a lot about you.
Right.
And so I feel more safe.
There's different forms of humor though. There's the I'm telling a joke, the quick, jokes that you're talking about in response to a conversation. I would say there's humor that comes from storytelling. I'm telling a funny story or an experience of my life.
I think that's where you thrive.
I think that's where I thrive. Yeah. And then there's also dark humor as well, which is very hit or miss.
How do we feel about dark humor?
I think maybe there's a time and place for it.
And I guess there's two types of dark humor. There's dark humor that's kind of making a joke of your own suffering in your life. And then there's dark humor that's just like making jokes about things in the world outside of yourself that are kind of maybe we shouldn't joke about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because if it's about myself, or like if someone makes a joke about something that they're going through, I'm not saying that's like fine, but I'm like, well, that's what you're going through, so like that's okay. But yeah, getting a joke,
like you can joke about something horrible happening in your life, and everyone laughs at it.
But I'm not going to joke about something horrible happening even in your life, or even in like someone else's life, like out there, or like some country that's going.
I think
through
that's the line.
Yeah.
I can joke about my own suffering, but you can't.
I will laugh at it though.
Sometimes I think that's even hit or miss as well, because you might be going through something that's difficult, and then you make a dark, humorous joke about it, and then it depends on your level of trust and comfortability with the person. Where they're like, I don't know, should I laugh hard at that right now, or should I kind of give it a chuckle, a light chuckle?
There's so many times where I make jokes to people that I don't know well, and I'm just realizing, well, that's probably not the appropriate time and place. We were at a wedding a couple weeks ago, and a guy came up to me and he goes, "Oh my gosh, your son is just so beautiful. It's just so great." And for the listeners who may not be aware, I have 2 boys, hopefully a third soon, but one of them has Down syndrome, and so this guy was obviously talking about my son with Down syndrome. And he comes up, he's like, your son's so beautiful. His condition's so wonderful. And I look at him, I was like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm giving him a hard time. And he's like, oh, I mean, his Down syndrome's like, it's really beautiful, And I was like, oh, I don't. Down syndrome.
What is that?
Well, that's weird. I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he just starts sweating. And he was like, oh yeah, and I was like, I'm just messing with you. And then I just kind of like gave him a punch. And he just didn't laugh at all and just immediately walked away. No. And I was like, no, worse. that probably wasn't the type of guy that I should have done that with.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Oh, it was hilarious.
If you did it to me, I think it's hilarious.
But it's like, you never know. Sometimes you don't know how they're going to react. And so it's kind of a feeler of friendship. Like if he reacted well to that, I'm saying, hey, let's go grab a drink at the bar. Let's hang out. If he doesn't, I don't want to see him again.
The fact that he reacted poorly is not a bad thing, because now it means that
I know where he stands on things.
You don't want to be good friends with him.
Yeah, exactly.
You judged. Okay.
And I don't know if that's dark humor as much as it was just kind of me ribbing him a little bit.
That's dark humor.
And kind of testing him.
Yeah.
Like what I would have loved is him being like, "Oh my gosh, that made me so uncomfortable. That was amazing.
Yeah, like that was funny.
That was hysterical." Yeah. So I don't know. It's a good test of friendship with a guy.
Yeah.
And you got to find the line, because you got to know what he's comfortable with and what he's not.
How do you find the line early on, though?
How do you find the line
early on?
Just like what you just said. Yeah. You just kind of
step over it, and then you're like, nope, that wasn't it. We're moving backwards.
You always got to start light. and then slowly turn it out.
It kind of pressing the envelope.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like you're good at knowing where the line is, but you're also good at being the one out of us three to cross it most frequently.
I think it's kind of what I just said. Like, I know when I first meet someone, I try to keep it
PG.
But I will, if it's like, let's say one of y'all is like, hey, I want to meet my buddy. They're like really funny. You guys would get along. Like, if I have that intel beforehand, I might be willing to push things a little earlier, versus just meeting someone for the first time. Of like, okay, I'm not going to push the envelope. But also, for the most part, it hasn't come to bite me yet.
What
I feel like I have a good sense of when it's okay to cross a line.
Yeah.
And like around who.
What about that? Didn't you give a talk at a recruitment event for our organization where you made some jokes that just didn't land, or maybe the crowd was like, I don't know about that.
This is the first time I'm hearing about this. So maybe it happened.
You thought you nailed it.
Yeah.
It's like I was 10 out of 10.
Maybe it did. I don't know.
Maybe it was just you were really pushing people in a maybe appropriate way.
Oh, I see. Yes.
But some people.
Yeah. I remember. No, it wasn't the jokes. It was.
You said some things that were designed to make people think a little bit.
Yes. And there was one person that said that I was fear mongering by telling him to think about things.
Fear mongering.
Is
that like rage baiting?
I don't know. I kind of just was like, all right, thanks for the super unhelpful feedback that I'm not going to listen to. Like, what does that mean?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
Fear monger.
But that was a one individual in a room of what, like 300 people. Yeah. Like you made it seem like I was just going up there telling jokes and no one was laughing.
I gave a talk one time and I was talking about my wife, and I said that I was using this colloquially, and I said that when I first met my wife, I thought she was hot. And someone came up to me after the talk and they were like, I want to tell you, you made me extremely uncomfortable. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, what happened? And he's like, you called a woman hot, and I am very, very uncomfortable with that. And I was like, I'm sorry. And it was one of those things where it was like, I was saying it in a joking way, like, oh yeah, back when I was in college, all I cared about was if a girl was hot or not. That was kind of the context I was using it. And he looked at me and he goes, we call French fries hot, not women.
I was like, all right, dude.
Sweet, dude.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
You should go get some.
See you at McDonald's. Yeah.
I think my speaking of that, we have a friend who we will not name, but whenever they used to give talks or anything like that, they always say, "And my super hot wife."
Yes.
Do you remember this?
100%.
And I don't know if that's where you got it from.
Yeah, that's 100%
It is where you got
right.
it
Based
from.
I
on
always thought it was kind of like I never thought it was weird. Like, oh my gosh, you're calling a woman hot. It's like whatever. It's more of just like
it. I always told him it made him sound like he was a 60-year-old kind of like youth pastor.
it made it sound like he was an older dude trying to fit in with
Yes,
younger people.
right.
Of like, hello, fellow kids. Like I call my wife hot. And so I always thought it was funny.
Hello,
and
fellow kids.
I would twist it, and whenever I would give a talk, I'd say like, there's my going off of different things that are like big, like words in focus, like well-known words in focus. I would say it's like, oh, and my sober and modest wife. And I would just use like different words that were like, very
Didn't
different.
really fit.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with it. It was
Right.
like, oh, there's my very chaste wife. I was like, what? And it just like you just keep going.
Yeah.
And that's how you can start breaking down a crowd.
That's what I was going to say about you that you do really well, is that it's not like you're telling jokes. It's not like you're using dark humor. It's your mannerisms and just, I think, colloquialisms that make you feel super approachable.
Yeah.
It shows people that you're lighthearted,
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because there's kind of different types of humor. You mentioned like you have great storytellers and they tell stories and it's just like you're rolling on the ground laughing because they just seem to be able to put themselves in situations that are ridiculous. Then you have like quick humor people who just like play on words or, use a tone of voice that's really funny. And then you have people that tell jokes and kind of give people a hard time in a hilarious way. There's like different types of humor. Who would you say is the funniest of us three? Objectively.
I think it depends between me and Clayton. No, I think we're all very different. I think both of you guys are actually big storytellers, and that's how you get humor out.
Oh, I got one other funny thing.
And
some people, real quick,
Yeah.
because I think this will fit in. Some people are just funny.
Yeah.
Like they're not trying to be funny, but they're kind of quirky and it's hysterical.
Yes.
That would be maybe
I
the fourth type.
100% agree.
I would put you in that category.
I think both of you guys fall in the storytelling category. And I think sometimes you'll tell jokes, John Michael, whereas like Clayton is not a joke teller. I'm not a joke teller. You will either some dad joke you found or
try hard.
No, that's only at work.
Yeah.
That you tried too hard. But like you tend to lean more in the joke direction, whereas Clayton is a pure storyteller.
I agree with that.
I think I lean more in the quick,
witty.
let me just get something out. Like I don't have jokes. If you put me on the spot, it's like make me laugh. I can't.
I think the thing.
But if we're living life, I will point something out, or I'll say something about something that happened.
You do what great comedians do is they find little like things in life that are funny that people don't really notice, and then talk about that, and it's hysterical.
But I feel like and maybe this is why I'm not a comedian. It's because I can only do it with things that are happening around us. Like I'm very situational humor, and it's only funny if you're like when I'll give a talk and I'll make a joke. It's like I'm reacting to what I'm seeing on the crowd, what's happening around us, and that's what I'll joke about, and it's funny. But I don't have any jokes. I don't have any stories.
The hardest I've laughed in a very long time was when you guys were over for dinner at our house, and you pointed out how weird and odd the idea of grinding is. Like in high school, you were just like, can we just talk about how weird that was? and I don't know if I've ever laughed harder in my life than you pointing out just an objectively odd experience.
Like, why did we do that?
What a strange thing to do.
Like our freshman year of high school. And I feel like, I don't know if it's just a Texas thing, but everyone do it and you just get in like a line.
It's like mums.
It's like your parents and teachers are like watching from upstairs, like a homecoming, and there's just these huge lines of people
and you don't know what you're
dancing.
Yeah,
they were telling us when we were having that conversation. Another buddy of ours was talking about how they had at his Catholic school. What did they call it? It was like the chastity prison or something.
Yeah,
like basically if your dress was too short, you got put in a room, and they came and stapled on more cloth onto your outfit. But then
private
it just
school, Jose.
Yeah. You guys, you probably didn't have staplers.
No, I didn't have to wear a shirt to school.
but they were talking
there's
about
the good humor right there.
They were talking about how whenever like a new person would get kicked into the room, everyone would be like, like high fiving. Oh man,
bring back the modesty jail. So we're talking about, different types of humor. When is it good? And I think, I don't know if we explicitly said it, but I would agree of humor can be a great way to test like a group to see if that's, a group that you get along with. Yeah, you have things in common. It can also be a great way to bond as men, especially because you said this very explicitly, because we like shared experiences more than anything. On the other side of the coin, we often, I do. We can use humor as a shield, right? So it's like, when does humor stop helping?
So I think, when you're to go back to the storytelling idea, and the shared experience idea, when you're telling a good story, the way I think that I tell stories is that, you can take a normal moment that happened in life, and then you can tell it in a way that's 100% factual and true, but you're using descriptors and exaggerators in a way, and you're like moving your voice up and down to, I don't know, to make the story more intriguing, more funny. You're getting people to laugh. But you can also tell stories in a way, where you're doing the same thing. You're telling stories, you're using your voice, you're lowering your voice in order to affect, an emotion of sadness, or, you might, I think, Monsignor Shea is the president at the University of Mary. He speaks usually at our annual conference every year. And, the way that he tells stories in such a way that he uses this deep voice, and you're just sucked into it immediately. Like you want to hang on to every single word that he says. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that, in storytelling, or when you're using humor, what we're talking about it as is we're using humor or storytelling or giving a talk in front of someone as a mode of connection with a person. Because, when you're using humor in the right way, you're trying to draw someone in and connect with them. Whereas humor can also be used in the opposite direction, where I'm going to try to make jokes to deflect things in order to not connect with the person and to keep things on a surface level. So that's what I would say. I don't know if you guys have seen that play out in your own life, or you've seen it in other guys. What does that look like when you're using humor as a point of deflection rather than connection?
It's all about pain and being uncomfortable with pain. I mean, we were just talking the other day, and we all have difficult things going on in our lives. And Clayton was making a joke out of a difficult situation happening in his life. And it's just like, that's a natural thing to do when you're hurting and you're just like, I kind of want to talk about this, but at the same time, this isn't the proper environment to fully crack this open with everyone. But I'm identifying through this joke that there's something there. Like, have you ever heard someone make a joke and you're like, I kind of want to put that in my back pocket and ask about that in a moment that's maybe more intentional or private? Because I can tell based on what he joked about there's something going on there that I want to check in on. Whether it's a comment made about a wife amongst a group of men, and you're just like, oh, she's always frustrated at me, ha ha ha. And it's like, no, I might circle back with that guy afterwards and be like, hey, I know you said that, but I just want to check in. Like, is that something you really are frustrated with? Or is that something that's just kind of funny? So I think humor for men is our ways of, in some ways, raising a flag and showing people like, hey, this is going on. I don't really know how to talk about this. I don't really know where to talk about this. I don't really know what space, but I just want to let you guys know this is happening without totally shutting down this moment or conversation.
I would agree with that, but I also don't know if I've ever consciously thought that,
I think a lot of times it's unconscious.
Yeah.
You don't really know what's going on in here, and so it just comes out as a joke.
But it's totally okay. Like, I'm also thinking of this moment we were talking about the other day. I think it's totally fine for someone to joke about something difficult in their life, because then we know that we are going to address it later, or that we have addressed it already, because there's that friendship there. And I think that's also a key factor, or a key difference, is when maybe there's not that friendship, that I can go back and be like, hey, why did you say that?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, hey, that really funny joke? What's going on? If that friendship isn't there, that trust isn't built, I think that's when it does become like a harmful thing of, hey, are you deflecting, or are you asking for help to connect, or what are you doing here? Yeah.
I think humor builds trust builds relationships, and then relationships can breed those deeper conversations. But I maybe would make an argument that humor is a absolute necessity for male friendship, because it allows the trust to be built, which allows the connection to be built, which allows the relationship to take place, which allows for the deeper conversations and the conversations of purpose and meaning to actually find a place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think there's another aspect here. Not necessarily, using humor in a conversation, but I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine who, him and his wife were pregnant with their first child. And they had a miscarriage at 24 weeks, which is a really traumatic experience, for the woman. She has to, birth the stillborn baby, and, all sorts of emotions come with that as well. And so I was having a long conversation with him on the phone the other day, and just kind of checking in and seeing how he's doing. And, they obviously have, gone through immense grief, so much excitement to welcome their first child into the world. Thankfully his wife has been able to get leave from work for about 10 weeks or so she has some time off. But I was asking him, what are you doing to cope with all that? And he's like, well, the baby was going to be due this in February, and they're going on a ski trip to take their mind off it and just have a good time with one another. He's like, there's nights where we're eating ice cream and we're crying, and there's also nights where we're watching The Office and we're just laughing with one another, And so I think another aspect of being a humorous person, being able to add humor into a conversation, is that it's a point of relief for some people that are going through difficult things as well. It's like, hey, I can come up to someone and I know they're going through a lot and I want to connect with them in that space, but it's also probably going to be good for me in some ways as well to laugh at the same time. How can I bring them out of that to an extent and get them to giggle a little bit, have a good time, smile.
A good giggle, yeah.
Everyone needs a good giggle every now and again.
I agree.
I hope that no one ever listens to my laugh and be like, that was a giggle.
That was a cute giggle.
Ugh.
I also think, yes, I agree 100% with what both of y'all said. And maybe I'm about to say the same thing, just in different words. But I'm like, sometimes it just feels good to laugh. And that's all there is to it.
Amen, Jose.
And it's like, yeah, I like Clayton, you and I talk on the phone a lot. And most of the time
we're giggling.
After we hang up, my wife will ask me, she's like, hey, what did you guys talk about? I was like, I don't know. We just giggled for like 35 minutes. And that's it. She's like, well, how are they doing? I'm like, I have no clue.
No idea.
What's going on with the kids?
Right.
Couldn't tell you.
Who
Didn't
knows?
ask.
Are they moving? I don't know.
That's such a relatable experience of like, you hang out with a group of guys and your wife's like, so how's everybody? How's their marriage? No, we talked about football for 25 minutes. And then we talked about our, bathroom issues for the next 30. And that was it. And I had the time of my life.
We were laughing. I think it was with you recently because we saw this tweet that someone sent us of like, yeah, just went on a boys trip.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Just went on a boys trip with all my guy friends, and I came home and my wife asked me like, oh, how was it? How's everyone doing? How are their wives? How are their kids? And it's like, oh, I don't know. And then the wife's like, well, what'd you talk about? Well, we spent 3 days drafting which countries we would take over first if we were dictators and how we would take over the world. It's like, what is going on over there? And it's so, yeah. But laughter, you just laugh all the time.
What I would say that I tend to exaggerate some things in storytelling. Something I would like to work on, something I am working on. However, I do think that sometimes the truth can get in the way of a good story. What is the balance between exaggeration in humor and just flat out that wasn't even true?
I have a thought on this because the thing that you are a culprit of in storytelling is not just exaggerating things, it's inflating specific numbers.
Yes.
Like
there was 700 people there.
There were 700 people there. We were playing basketball. It was on fire. Had 36 points, over 2 games.
It's like maybe there was 20 people and you had like 12 points.
but in my head, the moment was so big that there was 700 people.
Yes. Yeah. So I think in my mind, the balance is like, okay, I don't want to lie, but you want to use, I don't know how to describe it really. You want to use.
It's theatrical.
It's theatrical. You want to use descriptors of how intense or amazing or funny or awkward.
He was 6'7", 250 pounds, covered in tats. In reality, 6'1", 180, one tattoo.
One tattoo, yeah. No, but I agree.
But that's how you felt in the moment.
100%.
Like in a moment, though, you're like, I don't know what that story was.
I just have a problem with reality.
I just need glasses. But I'm also thinking, like, at least amongst us,
right?
I feel so comfortable exaggerating because I know that whenever you guys tell me a story, it's also exaggerated, But I know that. And I know that you know that too. I know that when I tell you, like, dude, I just went to this place and I had 15 people recognize me because of this podcast. We both know that when I said that, I meant 2 people max.
We should have like for every story.
Like
that's the way it felt to you.
For every story, it's like every number needs to be divided by 3.
At least.
Yes.
5. 10?
Depends on the story. Depends
Yeah.
on the context.
Depends on the context.
There's some details though that you just need to. Like our favorite story, one of our favorite stories of all time is the famous chicken nugget story. And I'm not going to get into the details, but one of the parts of the chicken nugget story is that the fry cook turned around and there was a burger patty floating in midair. That the whole world just stopped and the burger patty was just in midair.
Right.
Obviously, that's an exaggeration.
But you're describing the feeling that was in the room, which was that everybody was
You're building
stopped.
suspense.
Everybody in the room stopped and looked at what was going on in this McDonald's at a certain time as part of the story. And so the burger floating in midair, everyone knows it didn't happen, but you're painting the picture of, the room was frozen at what was going on.
Yeah. When do you know, and, kind of similar to what you guys are saying with exaggeration, right? When do you know when it's time to stop the exaggerating, right? And to start kind of being a little more real, similar to what we were saying. When you and I specifically are huge culprits of this, where we'll just talk on the phone 3-4 times a week, but we don't talk about anything. Is there a line? Where is the line? When do you know when to stop and when to be real? I've never felt uncomfortable. Like I've always felt more than comfortable enough to, if I need to talk to you about something, I can.
Right.
But then we never do.
Well, there's a time and place. I was thinking of this song. It's called "Breathe in the Same Air." A friend of mine sent it to me, probably a year ago or so.
Give us some lines.
I'm not going to sing it right now,
Give
but
us
one of
some
the
lines.
lines in the
Because
chorus.
copywriting.
Yeah, I don't want to get flagged.
Because it sounds a lot like the real
yeah,
one.
because they could think that I'm actually playing it into the microphone, and I don't want to get us in trouble.
For sure.
But there's a line in there where the artist says, it's part of the chorus. He says, "Sometimes breathe in the same air has got to be enough." And what he's talking about is like,
Man, you got deep on us.
well, what he's talking about is just like, yeah, there's a time and place to have those, deep conversations that you want to have with friends. But sometimes, in the picture that he's painting within the song is he's at a bar with some friends. They're watching a football game. There's difficult things that are happening in life. They're not talking to one another.
Mm-hmm.
They're just sitting shoulder to shoulder, drinking a beer and watching the football game.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes breathing the same air has got to be enough, And I think for us, there's, Jose, I would say, we talk frequently, and I think there's times where, we do get into things with each other, but for the most part, like when I'm calling you, and like I'm not calling you for any particular reason. I'm not calling you to ask about something or to tell you something. I'm just calling to
laugh.
to just to laugh,
Yeah.
just to like hear your voice and chit chat for a little bit,
I appreciate that.
because I love you and you're a good man.
Big dog. Appreciate that. I love you too.
Big dogs eat.
But great, that's for our specific relationship, but just in general, like
What's the line? Is that what you said?
we might have some listeners that are like, dude, I do that. And like
Mhm.
sometimes I feel like I don't really connect with my friends because all we do is just giggle, right? All we do is just laugh about things, which, right, to a point, it's okay. But where's the line?
I think if you feel incapable of having a serious conversation with the men in your life,
That's the line.
that's it. Or you're worried. The worst feeling is when you're worried that if you bring up something serious, that someone's going to make a joke about you. So like, hey, can we talk about this? And you start sharing something, and then they just start ribbing you. And it's like, that's when you should know, all right, we've crossed the line. We're incapable of actually having fruitful and faithful discussions about serious things in our lives without something real, without humor taking a part of it. I was a groomsman in a wedding, and I'm a great person to have in your wedding because I'll be very comfortable with all the random brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles at the wedding who nobody else knows. But I always get absolutely, hurt by the people they set me up with to walk down the aisle. It's always like, all right, we have a crazy cousin who's, fourth
It's always the
removed.
throwaway bridesmaid.
They always
person.
set him up with me
Mhm.
because they're like, all right, well, at least John Michael will talk to them. So I go to this wedding. I get set up with not one, but two divorced women.
Like to walk
Like you
down
walked
that
To
down
walk
like-
down the
like
aisle.
this?
One was 40, the other was 37. And both of them had back tattoos. I'll just put it that way. And they set him up with me, and I was like, you did me dirty. You put me with the divorced women?
This is one of those things where he's exaggerating.
No, Yo,
It was like one girl
Well,
that's never been married.
The other thing that he did, he said, and they both had back tattoos.
yeah.
It was like, that was a detail that maybe you didn't really need to say, but you're trying to tell us
painting
something.
The picture
You're trying
about
to
who
tell
they
us
were as
something
people.
about them.
Anyways,
It's like maybe one of them had a fish on their ankle, you know?
it was a full tiger on their back from shoulder to shoulder.
And when they stood next to each other, it's actually one big
It was
picture.
one tattoo.
It was one big tattoo.
All right. So, anyways, it was the flower girl, if we're being honest. No, I'm just kidding. But we're walking, or before the wedding, one of them looks at the bride and they're like, last time I walked down the aisle, it was to my ex-husband. As we're walking, like seconds before we're about to
What do you
walk
say to
in,
that?
that's what I mean. It was just like, and everyone was laughing, and it was like, that's not funny.
Yeah.
It's not funny
You
at
didn't
all.
have one in your back pocket to reply to that in the moment.
I said, nice back tattoo.
Ex-husband. I hardly know her.
Oh man, it was a long walk down the aisle. Let me tell you that.
Yeah.
So you were like this.
Two.
Okay, so let me ask you another question. You said they both had back tattoos,
Yep.
and in my mind, what I visualize is their entire back
No,
is
it wasn't
tattooed.
like that. It wasn't like that.
Yeah, it wasn't like that, was it?
No.
But that's the picture that you were trying to give us.
I said back tattoos.
Yeah, but you
took
know
the
what we're gonna
artistic
think. What does that
liberty
mean?
in
What
your
kind of-
head.
Can you tell us what
to
they actually
create
had?
that?
Tell us the truth of what the tattoos actually were.
Look, I was trying not to focus too much on their bare skin. Okay, I don't remember.
Did you have a point?
Here's
I
one
think
more.
the point. I think the point was
It's like, I like this story, but what were we talking about?
I was trying to give a real life example of the value of exaggeration in storytelling.
Yes. Well, one thing. This is one of my last thoughts here is just that one thing that you also do. I think of the way that you share your testimony. Actually, I have two thoughts here. One, when you talk about your testimony, you talk about how you went to there's a mentor in your life that you had a conversation with at a smash burger on campus.
Yes.
And when you always tell the story,
Yep.
you say, we went in,
Right.
he bought me a double bacon cheeseburger with sweet
Right.
potato fries and a chocolate shake.
Yep.
And it's like, when you're telling your testimony of
No
your
one really
conversion
needs
to
to know
Jesus
that.
Christ, that's not really something that you need to know,
Yeah.
but it's part of your storytelling. But here's another thing, Jean-Michael, that both of us are culprits of in our storytelling. One time you were sharing your testimony,
Mm-hmm.
and without realizing it,
Mm-hmm. I told someone else's
you
testimony.
told my testimony. And my jaw was on the floor.
You're like,
And
wait a
you're
minute.
like, you don't even know the truth of how your conversion came about anymore. It's all blending together.
What about the time that? Can you tell a story about when you told your testimony, but you actually just told the story of the Lion King instead?
Well, I was sitting with a group of friends, and we were sharing. It was a moment where we were sharing all of our testimonies together. And to be honest, I couldn't really tell you the storyline of the entire Lion King right now. It's been a long time. But what I started sharing was that my father was, when I was growing up, he was a great landowner. And this was like 3 or 4 people had shared their testimonies.
And
at
like
this
people
point.
are crying.
And I started telling, I was like, yeah, growing up, my father was a great landowner. And, when I was raised in the family, it was kind of always a thing of like, one day I would be able to inherit the land. And, this was a big, kind of a family thing that was going on. But my uncle was really jealous of my father, and it's a terrible situation. But one day we were going out towards the land, and my uncle actually, he threw my father into a pack of wildebeests. And my father died. And
So he's doing this. He's doing this, and he doesn't break character the whole time.
Tearing up.
He's like, and then my dad was run over by a pack of wildebeest.
Well,
Everyone's
it's
like,
no. Well, at that point, I had led up to that point so much where like you could feel the tension in the room, And then when I said wildebeest, there's one particular person that kind of like snapped out of it. They're like, "Wait, what are you doing?"
That's the plot of the Lion King.
So good humor, And then I jumped into
humor.
my real testimony after that. until John Michaels.
Oh man, that was a fun. We used to do that where people would ask for our testimonies, and we would just share movie plot lines and figure out if they could
figure it out. Yeah, that is funny. It's also funny. I feel like we all do this, but depending on what mood you grab me in when you ask me to tell you about my life, like my testimony, I will tell you a different story, and they're all true. They're all like real
they're
things,
all true,
but they're just like different aspects.
There's different nuances.
This story is more about how difficult it was for my family to move to a different country. This one is more about my time in college and like how I struggle with these things. And this one is more about how all these other parts of my life. And it's just like, I've had friends. Someone's like, how many personalities do you have under there? Just a lot of testimonies.
It's funny because like in different stages of your life, like if I ask you for your testimony right now, you may talk about the last, maybe 6 to 7 years.
Yeah.
But I think when you look back at times of your life, like there's different things that have happened that are powerful in each season of your life. So, when I was in college, I'd talk about what happened in high school. When I was in post-grad, right after, I'd talk about what happened in college. And now it's like my testimony would be more just like what God's done in the last 7 years of my life as a dad, as a husband. Because that story's closer to home.
I think one great practical here to close us is, you ask the question.
I love it when you get your pen going.
Well, that's why I do pen and paper. You guys are all digital, but there's something about, right here.
Analog.
About ink.
Something about ink on paper.
Big ink.
Dude, you are a plant from Big Ink. You got pens, you got ink on your paper.
You guys see, you're using humor to deflect away from the intentional point that I'm trying to make to our listeners back home that are really curious about what I'm about to say. So I'm trying to be intentional.
They've made
here.
it this far. I think
they're 45 minutes in. We haven't made a point yet. But here's the thing: is if how do you know it's gone too far? Is you should probably take maybe I would suggest maybe 2 to 4 weeks and just kind of examine the relationships that you have in your life and like, okay, have I had a serious conversation with this person? Have I not? Has it been because of this person, or has it been because of me? And honestly, whether it's like a group of friends or a particular friendship that you have, just call it out. Just approach the group or approach the friend and be able to say, here's what, I've been thinking about this, and over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of realized that we spend most of our time joking around with one another, and I want to be able to have, I love our joking around and I love our humor, but I want to be able to have serious conversations. And if you can do that, hopefully that's a stepping stone. If you're leaning towards too humorous, to, at least have clarity in the group of like, hey, we want to go deeper with one another. And this is a pattern that we have in our friendships.
For sure. I love that. Thanks for sharing, Clayton. I think as we close out, just to summarize, humor is a wonderful thing. It's a gift that can help, men bond and like really help them through hard seasons in their lives. But it wasn't meant to carry things on its own just by humor, right? We still need connection. We still need real relationship with other people. Knowing when to laugh and when to be honest is part of growing up. Knowing how to do both is part of growing up. So if this episode hit close to home, or if it makes you think of any friend that you like to giggle with, go ahead and send this to them. Make sure you're following us or subscribe. Make sure you like this video. This is an All In podcast. We'll see you next week.